Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 27 of the Biff Rugby League podcast, the final official episode of 2022. Sorry it's a week late. Robin decided to throw his guts up last week and was like, "Oh, lad, sorry, I can't do it." Are you feeling better this week, Robin?
Yeah, I am, and I genuinely was ill. I wasn't just like pulling a sickie, but I'm happy to say that I've crawled to the end of this year with you guys at the Biff, and it's been a pleasure.
It has been good. We've had ups, we've had downs, we've had technical issues, and next year Toby is going to provide us with a child, a Biff child. And Robin, by the way, just before we start, Robin, you've won the set six, you've won the predictions.
Wow.
You finished on 105. I was finished on 99. Toby, you finished on 93. And as a result of Robin winning the set of six predictions, he is now allowed to name Toby's child.
Wow, what an honour! I'm gonna have to think about this. I'd just like to say, you know, thanks for crowning me the winner again. The fact that neither of you even made 100 is pretty pathetic, but we can't all have a magic crystal ball. And I'd also just like to rub it in a little bit before we move on that not only did I predict the winners of the men's and women's finals, but I also predicted the two players of the match, which you guys were like, "Oh, let's add points so that we can catch up the lead," and all you really did was play into my hands and give me a chance to just stretch out and claim glory. So
it wasn't good. The only thing I got right last week or 2 weeks ago was the fact that Australia would win the women's final, and the only thing that Toby got right would be that England won the wheelchair final. I mean, it wasn't a great week for you either, Robin. You only got 4 out of 12. It was an absolute shocking week, but it was enough. All you needed was a point, and you'd have been fine. You didn't even, you know what? You didn't even need to get any points. We still wouldn't have caught you.
it was a victory lap.
It was. You just absolutely taken an absolute mick. Toby, is there any names that he can't give you, kid, next year?
I mean, the issue that we've fallen into with naming is just the fact that there's a lot of like cringy celebrities that have names nowadays, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
like, as long as it's not like a reality TV star or something like that, then we're in fine stead.
I like how he hasn't told you you're not allowed to name the kid. He's gone, oh yeah, as long as you don't give it a crappy name, you've got full reign.
I'm just thinking. I mean, maybe tune into week 1, 2023 to find out.
And yeah, we have a date for week 1, 2023, because the Challenge Cup, I know when the first round of the Challenge Cup's going to be, a little bit of insider knowledge. Bedford Tigers are going to be in the Challenge Cup in 2023, and the first round weekend is the February the 11th or 12th, so we'll be with you the week before that. Sorry, Robin, I know I didn't tell you before we went on, but yeah.
No, game for it. That sounds like a lovely Valentine's Day
Yeah, brilliant.
event.
If we've got a home game, I can't wait for that. That'd be amazing. We may as well crack on. We've got 10 awards to hand out tonight. I'll run you through the awards we're going to do. We're going to start with the Women and Men's Player of the Year. We're going to move into Signing of the Year. Then we're going to go to... I've lost my sheet now. Where's the order I had? I've lost my order. Flipping heck. Signing of the Year. Team of the Year. Club of the Year. Mullet of the Year. Biff of the Year. Blunder of the Year. And then Worst Rebrand of the Year. And then we're going to do Singular Moment of the Year. So for us, what is our... So for the moments, we'll have a top 3. We'll each say our own, and then we'll decide which one deserves to be 3, 2, 1. And our big moment of the year will be our... Well, that's where we'll end it for tonight. So it's a night of celebration. I've got my Pepsi Max with me. What are you lads drinking? Water for you, Toby, now? You've been responsible?
Yeah, it's water and a star of prom and beer glass. So it's a nice like mug beer glass. Holds a pint of water. Sort of
Nice.
and pretend I'm drinking an array of drinks out of it. Could be a coffee, could be a beer, could be just a glass of water. So
Nice. With self, Robin?
I'm going full on Zach Hardacre at the 2017 end of season awards. No, I'm kidding. I'm on the fresh air.
I was about to say, I was like, I really hope not. I was like, I know people that listen to this. Please don't tell me you're doing
he
lines
told me
off
he's
your
out the
list.
rest of the day, and then he comes out with that.
Oh Jesus. So yeah, first up then, Women's Player of the Year. Very vague category. We understand. It's really difficult to personally. We don't know enough about the women's game to be specific on position and backs, halves, forward. This is the year we've really kind of got into the game as a whole and started to really understand who the players are and who they play for. So I don't know who wants to kick this one off because I've got a few names in my head and I haven't picked my favourite player of the year yet. I don't know if either of you two have one.
I've got two suggestions. One of them is more of an honourable mention, and one of them is a genuine contender. So I'll start my honourable mention.
Yeah.
It's Holly Dodd for the York City Knights. I've sort of, just like you said, sort of just got into this and into the women's game, and at the start was mostly through the Knights, and I feel like the first game that I saw her play, I was like, she's a genuine talent, and she's really really threatening with ball in hand. She's a really good strong tackler, and she just puts herself in the right places. And as the years gone on, I think she's got a lot stronger, more physically capable, and so I think her game's really developed. And I think I saw the best game of her season for England right at the start of the World Cup, and I was really really impressed. And I think that the fact that she's so young is really exciting, and I think that she is the future of our England team. So she's an honourable mention. And the only reason that I'm saying she's not a genuine contender is because I think that it didn't quite work for her at the World Cup. And right at the start, when we played Brazil, that right edge was absolutely steaming. It were on fire. Georgia Roach, Holly Dodd, Tara Jane Stanley, and Caitlin Beavers. What a threatening attacking option that is. And they were everything was working and it was going really good. And Holly Dodd was right in the middle of all that, but they just couldn't find that same sort of luck ability, create those same opportunities when they came up against New Zealand, and they also were a little bit iffy against PNG. Just sort of didn't go their way. So against the best of the best, she wasn't quite there. But still wanted to give her a good shout out.
Yeah, 100%.
My actual suggestion is a Gillaroo in Julie Robinson. She wasn't the standout player in every single game, but she scored the joint most number of tries. She was awarded a coaches award in the NRLW, and I just think she was just everywhere. She's a complete athlete, super strong, super fit, great attack, great defence, and I really just enjoyed watching her play. So I want to put forward Julie Robinson.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the Holly Dodd honourable mention. Every time you watched York on the telly or even in person, she would have done something spectacular and really led that team from the front. So definitely, Julia Robinson in that World Cup final she just seemed unstoppable. Like, she was named in the dream team in the NRLW. Like, to do that at the age of 24, I know it's not the oldest of competitions, but they're 4 seasons in now over the last 5 years with one being cancelled. But she scored 7 tries in 4 games for Australia. Like, that's ridiculous. And are they all at the World Cup this year? Were they all 4 games at the World Cup this year? 7 tries. Like, anyone at any level to score that many tries at an international level is ridiculous. Toby, any names for you that have jumped out this year?
I think that on context, I think it's with the being a World Cup this year, Player of the Years have to have had a good World Cup as well as domestic season. So I think that it feels, in many ways, it probably feels fitting to take a Gillaroo. However, I think that when you win the women's Golden Boot and the what's the word? The Dally M.
Yeah.
In the same year, I think that it sort of shows that you are absolutely, there's no doubt in anyone's mind that you are the premier player. in the world. So I think that for that reason, it's hard for me to look past Ray McGregor. But I think I'd like to pick a Gillaroo, but I think the Gillaroos have what they've some of their team don't translate into the NRLW as well in terms of their teams aren't performing well. Not that they're individually aren't performing well.
Yeah.
And I think that you look at the Newcastle Knights team that won the NRLW this year, and I mean there's definitely a couple names in there which have played for Australia, but it's not an Australia. It's not the Australia squad picked from multiple teams, and I think for that reason, I think that you've just got to go with the player who's been best overall for me, and that's Ray McGregor.
Yeah, 100%. Ray McGregor was a name that I mentioned in the build-up to the Rugby League World Cup final. We mentioned her name in the build-up to the tournament as a whole, and we were really excited to see her play. Did really well against England, played phenomenally well in the first game against Australia. Went missing a little bit in the grand final, in the World Cup final. Definitely understandable. Julia Robinson again was phenomenal. There was names for the NRLW that really stood out this year. Jessie Southwell, is that the younger one of the two sisters at Newcastle? 17 years old, was one of the best players in that Newcastle team, but unfortunately I believe she got injured before the grand final over there, which meant she wouldn't be able to go to the World Cup. Millie Boyle, is it, that plays at Newcastle as well, just about to go over to with Adam Elliott going to follow her partner, lifted that trophy for the Newcastle Knights. But like you said, neither of them played in the World Cup, and so you have to kind of look past them and look at who played really well. For me, Ray McGregor, I agree, one of the best players in the world. You don't win a Golden Boot and the Dally M if you're not the best player in that league. But Isabel Kelly during the World Cup for Australia was just unstoppable. 26 years old, doesn't look like she's going to be able to run through everybody, but she just is. She just can. Yeah, it's just phenomenal. I don't know how else you can describe the way they are, but she was one of the best players in that World Cup final, other than Ali Brigginshaw, and that's the name we haven't mentioned, Robin. You picked her as your player of the match, and you were right. She was able to do it when it mattered for Australia, but she couldn't transfer that into her club game, and that's why I think this is one of the difficult awards to award. But I think for me, I'm gonna have to back Toby on this one. I think we're gonna have to go with Ray McGregor, but Julia Robinson definitely a very, very close second, alongside most of those Gillaroos.
Completely agree.
So Ray McGregor is the Biff Rugby League Podcast Women's Player of the Year. Men's Player of the Year this time. It's tough. Not many people were ranting and raving about a lot of players this year, but if they played for Penrith, they were going to be up there, weren't they? They were going to be named as, who's the best player in the world? Which of these halfbacks is going to do it? Which of these halfbacks is going to be able to lead their country or lead the team? And before the World Cup, there was Cleary hadn't won a representative game without Jerome Luai, but he did it. He won the World Cup final without Jerome Luai and against Jerome Luai, which I think is more important. So for me, I don't mind which one of them two, but for me, it has to be one of them two that wins this award.
Interesting. I would say out of those two, I think that Cleary has been the better. But I actually didn't have either of those two in my as my suggestion. But I've still gone down the Penrith Panthers route, and I would like to put forward Steve Crichton. The fact that not only did he have another great season with Penrith, instrumental in everything that they do, so dangerous at the highest level, and he loves the big games. But he also what he did in the World Cup and the way that he came up with that clutch play to knock England out in the semi-final, and I think he was still probably one of the best players in the actual final against the world's best. So I'd like to put him forward for my nomination.
Toby, any thoughts?
Robin has just stole my nomination out of my You know what? I thought I was being quite smart, not picking a Penrith Panther, but picking Crichton for the reasons you just discussed. I guess that I'll sort of go on. Like I felt like something I wanted to make sure I did with these awards was not just award them all to Australia. So I guess in you know the theme of the fact that we are a Europe-based podcast, so we should focus a little bit on the European Super League, and I think that for that reason, the player I'll put forward is Tommy Makinson.
Yeah.
Mainly because I listened to a couple of Australian rugby podcasts, and the only player they've said is the only player every single week that has impressed the Australian viewers who aren't used to the Super League players, regardless of the game. So again, a lot of players were impressed up until the Samoa game, and then all of a sudden, it started to cracks started to show. One player who never showed cracks in the World Cup, and it goes without saying that he's one of the best club players. He plays for the winning team. He played for a team that's won 4 grand finals in a row. There's no denying his club form, and I think that he came out of the international stage as the international stage and looked like the form winger behind Josh Adokar. So for that reason, I'm gonna say Tommy Makinson, but my heart is probably with Stephen Crichton.
And I think that answers the question then. I mean, I think that for me it was the battle of the halfbacks, Samoan and the Australian, and Cleary against Luai, but Crichton broke hearts, and for that reason that he's a nomination for another award later on for me. So there's a couple of, for my moment of the year, I have a few, and I think one of them is going to be is that moment. But I think Stephen Crichton this year has really stepped up his game on the field, and stepping back and going, I want to play for Samoa, and not playing for Australia, even though he would have walked into that team, just goes to show that he's not just there because he's there. He's doing it because he has a reason to do it. And for that reason, I think I'm going to have to back Stephen Crichton. So the men's Rugby League Player of the Year for the Biff podcast this year is Stephen Crichton. Are we all in agreement?
Yeah.
Perfect. Team of the Year. So this isn't necessarily, for those listening, it's not players by position and a 13. It's a singular squad from a team. So from a club. So for example, it could be St Helens squad that won the Super League. It could be the NRLW Newcastle Knights team. It could be the Samoan Rugby League World Cup squad. But for me, it's the only team that went unbeaten in their league campaign in professional rugby this year, and that is the Keighley Cougars. Can't be better than that, can it?
Yeah, I wrote down 3 teams, and one of them was Keighley. The fact that they had a perfect season, and yeah, I totally agree. We've been kind of enjoying their success all year, haven't we? The team that I want to put forward is a history-making 4-time Super League Grand Final winning St Helens. I think it's something that has never been done before, and if you look at the team that won that first Super League 4 years ago, it's almost a completely different side. They've had so many changes. Like they built that side off Ben Barbara, Theo Fage has departed. Some of the great second rowers and things have moved along, but they've still managed to bring new players through the ranks. Since then, they've unearthed Jack Wellesby, who's been sensational, and the likes of Tommy Makinson that Toby just described his talents. I think what they've done is really cool. The fact that they actually managed to do it without Alex Walmsley, who was massive, and Matt Percival. I just think that they just totally deserve to be held up as like one of the best that we've been able to enjoy.
Yeah, 100%. I do agree with that. Your third team, I'm curious now.
So my third team was a bit of maybe I'll let Toby go because he might be about to say it.
Yeah, that's true. Go on, Toby. See if you can spoil Robin's moment.
Yeah, so I think I think that from the moment a certain player signed for this team, that I wanted them to be my team of the year, and I think that I can justify why they're my team of the year, despite the fact that they did get knocked out in a semi-final, and that they've and to be honest, the fact that they don't play in the NRL.
Is it Lesignan?
It is, isn't it? It's Lesignan.
No, don't worry.
Okay.
Don't worry, I haven't put Lesignan forward, but I've gone for a team who have managed to, in 2022, bring in 3 players who top Super League clubs wouldn't take because they'd never even half proved themselves and proved themselves enough in the NRL to even make it into your sort of St Helens teams or your Wigan teams. And they've taken those players and developed them into players who now the top of Super League would kill to have, and that is the Salford Red Devils. What they managed to do this year with Tim Lafai, Brodie Croft, Shane Wright, among the fact that they brought in players like Callum Watkins, who I know this was a couple of years ago, but we thought he was washed. We thought he was done.
He was in that World Cup final.
Yeah.
World Cup semi-final.
And he's revitalised it. Joe Burgess to take the step to get him to take the step down and make him a core part of the season. It's just been the try scoring for Kensio this season. I felt like last season he was the only person who could score them tries. This season it was because he was brilliant that he was scoring them so many tries, and I just think that they've managed to put together a squad of players that people didn't rate, and they've managed to use them perfectly for their strengths. And I just think it's been fantastic to watch. It's been, I think that for me that's why they're the team of the year, because they're a team of players that everyone had, that so many people have counted out, really coming, a proper underdog story on their journey up to a semi-final. And it's a semi-final they lost with Brodie Croft not available, and you've got to consider those sort of things in the greater story of what could have happened if he was fit. So yeah, Telford Red Devils for me.
Oof. Was that your third team?
It wasn't, but like I can see your argument, and I agree. The fact that they've got the Man of Steel this year means that, and like you said, they took a bit of a gamble on him. So I think it's a great suggestion. But my other team was going to be Penrith Panthers. The fact that like they've set the bar in the NRL, they've it kind of was never in doubt that they were going to win it again. And like even then, they've still had to overcome a couple of players leaving at the end of last year. So I forget the name of the forward that joined them and went to the Bulldogs, and the fullback as well. But they managed to replace with Edwards, and just they are a great side. There's not really much that's gone against them, but they are the best of the best in terms of like club football that's out there.
100%. They are the best in the world. I mean, they could be the best in the world. We don't know if they're actually going to play Saints at this rate, do we?
No, that's true.
So I kind of hope that we do. That's tough. I feel like Keithley were on there, but I don't know. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The thing is, it's making it hard for Keithley is, unfortunately, you don't get a lot of news about League One. So whilst we've been enjoying their season, we've not like ridden with them every round. It's just been every couple of weeks we're checking and see how they're doing.
And
so I feel like
still unbeaten. Yeah.
Yeah, like they did have an amazing season, and if they were like headline results, like we hear about how Saints are doing and how Panthers are doing, maybe we would have enjoyed it a bit more. But I'll be honest, still don't know the full squad, so it's hard for me to like.
Can I suggest that we pick Salford, Saints and Penrith? Would that bother anybody?
I would be alright with that, and then it sets up the World Club Challenge to help us make our decision.
Yeah, we can confirm it next year. Toby, is that okay?
Go ahead with it.
Yeah. So the Biff Rugby podcast teams of the year are the St Helens 4-time Super League champions of 2022 and the Penrith Panthers NRL finalists. What, second year in a row? Third.
Time winners, 3-time finalists.
3 times finalists, 2-time winners, and I think it's nice to see that the fact that they should play each other. Just to point out, this match is going to take place on Saturday, the 18th of February, with kickoff at 7 a.m. GMT. Oh, it's in Australia. It's because it's in Australia. Sorry, I was like, why are they kicking off at 7? It's because it's in Australia. I was like, what the? I was like, yeah, okay, no, that's fine. It's being played in Penrith for that, so that's nice. Club of the Year now. This is one where it's not necessarily about their on-field performances, although that does help. But how a club has developed and how a club has succeeded as a whole. So all their playing squads, off the field, their community, everything else. For me, there's only one because you look at how their community sides have got to grand finals. Look at how their playing sides have got to their non-community professional sides have got to grand finals. Their community level, the work of Kevin Sinfield has really boosted the club this year and last year and the year before. Ever since the Rob Borrow diagnosis, for me, Leeds Rhinos have stepped up. They weren't amazing on the field the last few seasons, but this season they stepped up. They reached the grand final. They reached 5 grand finals over 5 different forms of the sport. Like, you can't knock that. I don't think there's a team that's as successful as they've been this year as a club.
I don't think you can argue with that. I've got one thing that I did see this year that I thought was really cool, and I've not seen it happen before. Was in around June time, Wigan Warriors organised a one club training session. I don't know if you saw it, but they had like 200 players from like all the way through the first team, the women's team, academy scholarship, PDRL, LDRL, wheelchair touch. Like all these things, there was 40 coaches there. They split them up into groups, and they had one player from each team in the groups, and they all did a training session on one night together. And that's the sort of thing that I think deserves an honourable mention in the Club of the Year awards, because I don't think that many of all these players play under the same badge and represent Wigan, but I doubt that they'd all met before. And to bring them all together in one night, I think that's pretty cool, and I think that's it's a really good idea that I think that a lot of clubs should try and get behind. I think it's a good way to build a great culture. So I just wanted to give them a shout out, but I still don't think they're the Club of the Year. I definitely think that Leeds Rhinos deserve this award unless Toby pulls something amazing out of the bag to beat it.
Go on, Toby. We're ready. We're waiting.
Well, Brad, I want you to close your ears for this, because I don't want you to get on your high horse about it. But for me, it's the Halifax Panthers, because in terms of the budget they run and the way they recruited this season, then struggled at the start of the year and had to claw it back in the men's game, was fantastic to confirm that they are the third best team. They're the best semi-pro team outside of Featherstone. It's fantastic, and that Halifax have really cemented themselves as a big rugby league club for the sort of 2020s now. But I think more importantly is what they're contributing to the wheelchair game. Despite the fact they didn't beat Leeds, they developed and brought forward Jack Brown, who on the international stage, although Seb Bashara won the Golden Boot, I would argue Jack Brown is the real player that connected that England team together and took them to a World Cup final. The only World Cup that England won of the 3 main ones, and I think that such a pivotal player was developed through the Halifax Panthers that for me, just to go against the grain of Leeds Rhinos as well, that is such a huge thing, and that's why I'm putting forward the Halifax Panthers.
Robin, I'm really sorry, but he's just pulled one out of the bag.
Not biased at all.
No, I mean, you look at that. We had James Woodburn-Hall go to the World Cup. We had Lachlan Walmsley go to the World Cup. Joe Keys went to the World Cup. Louis Giffray and Kevin Laurier went to the World Cup. There's 6 players in the in that squad that went to the World Cup. I think Saltonstall went but didn't play as well. Tangatar was in the reserves for the Cook Islands. Like, you know what? I get it. I understand it, Toby. I do. I get it. I totally get it. We are the best semi-pro team above Featherstone. I will correct you. As a squad, as a club, we are better than Fev. Always will be. But I can't look past Leeds and how they were this year. I don't think.
Yeah, I think if you like going value for money and you say like achievement and impact versus cost,
Yeah.
then Halifax maybe pip it. But I think Leeds are like showing the way for how we all want a rugby league club in this country and around the world to be run.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's right. So I think we have to agree. Club of the Year, Leeds Rhinos. I will now give you a Halifax nominee for signing of the season. Joe Keys. I can't say any more than that, really. He only played 14 times this season, our lad. He only played 14 times. But he scored 124 points in 14 games. Like, I don't know who else does that. I genuinely don't know who else does that. A former London Bronco, a former Bradford Bull, a former Hull Kingston Rover, and a former York City Knight. There are 4 teams there that I have followed in my career because I followed the career of Matt Cook. And now he's at Halifax. And I'm well happy. I'm so happy. Do you know what makes it worse as well? I trialled with this lad before he joined London in 2014.
Wow.
Like, I know he's 2 years older, but this guy was trialing. He was in an open trial. He wasn't contracted before he joined London Broncos. But I can't. Yeah, Joe Keys, signing of the year.
It's a great shout. I mean, it's a great shout, but couldn't bring the goods against York in the playoffs, and for Ireland, I think he was all right, but I don't think
he was better. He was better than Luke Keary for Ireland, personally. For Ireland in the World Cup, he was better than Keary.
So that puts him in the top halves in the world, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. When you put it like that, he's the second best halfback in the world.
Well, I would like to put forward. Well, I've got a couple. I think I know who Toby's going to go for, so I'm going to go for a different one.
Yeah, I know. I think I know who Toby's going to go for as well.
Yeah, it's only just because I know he's got a poster of him in his bedroom. So, so I'm gonna go for Nico Hines at the Cronulla Sharks.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sort of came onto the scene at Melbourne last year as a bit of a backup utility player. The Sharks managed to get him, and I think that was an awesome signing. He's won the Dally M. He kind of deserved to go to the World Cup, I think, with Australia, but I can sort of see why he was a bit of a gamble considering he's had the zero experience there. But I'm sure that he will do in the future. One of the best players in the NRL, which is the toughest competition, in his first year for the Sharks. Can you ask for any more?
Toby, are you about to say Blake Ferguson or something? I don't know. I don't feel like that's what's coming.
No. I don't think I think I'm going on your route, Brad, where you go, oh, I support a club, and we didn't have a bad season, so definitely going to be the halfback that we signed to help us do well this season. And that's what happened really with Jamal Fogarty at Canberra Raiders. He didn't really play because he got injured in a trial or in training before the start of the season. As soon as he came on the scene, Canberra got good. Only Parramatta, Penrith, maybe South Sydney could have beat Canberra in the end of season form that they had. And I think that it's only going to grow from here. And Jamal Fogarty is pivotal, in that. In many ways, he's as pivotal as George Williams was. But I think that you all know that George Williams at Canberra is probably my favourite rugby league version of a player of all time. So I think that to sort of say that Fogarty's up there too in that 7 role, like when Canberra have a good 7 and no Josh Hodgson playing, they're just a special machine. And I think that Fogarty is obviously part of that structure that's made Canberra feel special and hopefully pushes them on to do even better next season. So yeah, Jamal Fogarty for me. Although I know I'm not going to win this one.
Although that is a great shout because when he was at the Titans the year before, everyone was saying like sort of he's the sort of player that the Titans are going to build off as they like creep their way up the ladder for the next couple of years. And then all of a sudden the Raiders poach him. Not only have they just boosted their roster with a great player, they've just taken away from a rival who was sitting in a very similar point at the table at them at the end of the year. So and again, I think that's a fantastic shout for signing because if we're looking at like everything involved in it, it's just a brilliant move from Canberra.
Yeah, I think right. Hear me out, Robin. If you want to go with Jamal Fogarty, then I will happy, and you're happy to switch from Nico Hines. Jamal Fogarty will be our signing of the year because I am willing to switch to either one of those two.
Well, I like Nico Hines. You look at the Sharks.
Hines at the end.
Yeah, I think you can't look past the Danny
around. Yeah, and they had such a great year, and it was like pretty much all off the back of him.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
I remember they signed a fullback, switched him to half as well.
Yeah, and he became that's what I mean. He was a fullback.
He was switched to 6. They switched him to 7.
Yeah, it was just well worked. It was fantastic from the Sharks, and they didn't cost him a penny apart from his wages. It was free end of contract move, wasn't it? I believe as well.
Yeah.
Like I was shocked. I was shocked that they let him go at the Storm. I was really shocked. It surprised me because they really could have done with him when Pappenhausen got injured when he busted his knee. Because if Hines was in and around that squad, then you know what he would have been able to offer. So the Biff Rugby League podcast signing of the season is the Cronulla Sharks' Nico Hines. Where do we go next here? You know what? I just mentioned Pappenhausen, so we'll go on to Mullet. Mullet of the year. You said you've got 5, Robin, so I'll let you go first and see if we mention any of those. See if me and Toby mention any of the 5 that you're going to go for.
I've got 5, and you'll have to bear with me whilst I get my massive Yorkshire mouth around some of these names. So, my first suggestion, Big Tino Fasa Alumari.
Fasur Malawiawi, yeah, that one.
Yes.
That one.
What a beautiful mullet that is. Long and flowing. Amazing. The Tongan player, Kolo Matangi.
That is a good one.
That is a big, wide, dark mullet.
I don't know if
Pappenhausen, the guy you just mentioned, odd, combined with the tash, that is a statement piece. Not often employed by a fullback, a slight fullback like that. So a very interesting choice. The legend, one of Toby's favourite players, Josh Papali'i. Another beautiful wide mullet, and also a very plain normal cut from the front with a hidden mullet that's just flowing and
party time at the back.
Yes, exactly. And then I had to get a Super League player in there.
I know who this is. It's Brad Fash,
and this
isn't
is LFC's Ginger Brad Fash. Wow, what is that thing? The light hair on the dark Hull FC shirt is a sight to behold.
Yeah, it's and
especially
the thing is
when it gets red in the face as well.
Yeah, it's the tash as well, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's the beard and it's just even when he has it though, it's just there was a whole article about his mullet.
Wow.
Yeah, a whole article about his mullet, I think, and it set people going. Toby, is anyone else mentioned on that list? Is there anyone that's not been mentioned so far that springs to mind for you?
I think for me, there's a player with a mullet who I think is probably Canberra's best player in Joseph Tarpany. I wouldn't say it's the best mullet, but it's the best player with a mullet.
Yeah,
that's a good shout.
Yeah, that is a good shout, and yeah.
My contribution would be that because I'm nowhere near the mullet researcher that Robin is.
I've got a league table.
Yeah, I saw an article of like the power rankings of mullets, and I'm gonna power rankings of mullets. Let me find it. I was looking at mullets
What I will
before.
say, I
Here
will
we
say
go.
that I don't think that a mullet on a indigenous, someone of indigenous Australian descent is as impressive as on a pasty white ginger man.
No, no. So there's 8 here. There's 8. So this is the thing. The NRL season is underway. This was back from March. Players have bulked up, others have trimmed down, while some have debuted new or improved haircuts. In recent years, the mullet has had a comeback to put the likes of Alfie Lango and John Farnham to shame. There's plenty of good ones across the competition, but whose is best? So these are the top 8, apparently, according to Sporting News Australia, mullets in the game. Kelma Tuolangi. Alright? Front business, back party. Simple stuff. Nothing special. Josh Curran. Fly. It's let that bird. They're saying let that bird fly, Josh. Alright? When it comes to headgear wearing Josh Curran's hair, Morgan Freeman, as Red in Shawshank Redemption put it best, some birds aren't meant to be caged, their feathers are just too bright. And when they fly away, the part of you that knows it was a sin to lock them up does rejoice. Let that bird fly, Josh. Do you know why I forget about him? Is because he wears the scrum hat.
Yeah.
You don't see it. You missed out Jack Whiten. Your Raiders boys there. Toby.
I did.
Like Tino, Big Tino's on there. Kaloma Tangi's on there. Dalin Wateni Zelezniak is on there. They were calling him the Mullet Man at Hull FC, and when they played Jamaica, all the kids, they were calling him the Mullet Man. Ryan Pappenhausen's number 2. Who's going to be number 1? Josh Papali'i. Do you know what? I can't give it to anyone but Brad Fash. I'm looking at these now and I'm thinking Brad Fash's is so much better than all of these.
Brad Fashionable.
Right, you killed it. Let's move on. Brad Fash for you, Tobes? You got to be in it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no way that man should have a mullet, but he's bloody got one.
Biff Rugby League Mullet of the Year. Hull FC's Brad Fash. Don't cut it. Please don't cut it. Shall we go with... Yeah, you know what? Let's do it. Biff of the Year. This is where we choose our favourite big moment, big physical impact, whether it's a fight, a tackle, I don't know what you wanted to call it, but it's just a biff. I've got 2, and it's one of them was a second Halifax nomination. Barrow versus Halifax. 2 red cards, a yellow card. It was Maludi up against Worthington. It's phenomenal. Titus Guaze got a red card for pulling on a shirt, and I was fuming at the referee. And then there was the State of Origin one. The State of Origin one was amazing. I loved it. I was telling them to let's absolutely batter the crap out of those New South Welshmen. But I don't know if either of you have seen another one that stands out more than those 2 this season.
Well, my nomination is a biff that happened behind closed doors.
Oh
and
yeah.
It's a biff that we'll never truly know what happened. Maybe someone will bring out a biography, who knows? But it was only recently. It was after England were knocked out of the World Cup, and they're all chilling at the hotel and licking their wounds, but bonding and just having a nice chill time. And a random James Bentley flies over from the other side of the world, gets straight off the plane, doesn't even stop, walks straight over to the hotel. Must have been invited back. We spoke about why he was there, who knows. But anyway, apparently he was gobbing off at Sean Wayne, thinks that he should have been selected for England, despite the fact that he didn't even play well for Ireland. And Victor the Inflictor, the half Aussie, half English hero.
No, he's English. He's not Aussie at all. He's totally, fully, 100% English.
Well, he couldn't have done anything more to be accepted by the English. But he gave James Bentley what he deserved, knocked him out apparently, and
Good.
That biff, the whole story behind it, the scenes, like, this guy gets invited along and starts scrapping, and the fact that I don't know. Has it been investigated, or
It
is
is
it just got like
still under investigation by
yeah,
the Rugby Football League have placed Radley under investigation. So I don't see how they're going to be able to do anything about it.
yeah? I think that they'll just let this one sort of burn out to the background.
Yeah.
They're quite happy to just like the only footprint of this is just a black eye and a damaged ego of someone that's just been an absolute liability all year and probably deserved a good chin in. That's my bit of the year.
Toby, can you top that?
So I've taken the pacifist approach to Biff of the Year.
No. Then it's not going to win. Come on, man.
I'm
We're all
intrigued.
about swinging arms and shoulder charges. You can't be a pacifist.
And I'm identifying a Biff as aggression towards the other team. And
Okay,
for that
okay.
reason, I've gone for the referee in the wheelchair men's final.
Oh man. Oh. Do you know what? I totally forgot about that.
Showing complete aggression towards England's side to the point where I think if he was a French player, he would have got out of his wheelchair and started swinging. So
It's the aftermath, though, isn't it, of that as well?
a technical Biff of the Year, but yeah, I think that I wanted to get it on the podcast somewhere, and I felt like Biff was the best place to put it.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Those hip thrusts. What the hell was that?
No, we've got to talk about it. I mean, he's under investigation. He's not going to referee at that level again for a while. But it was so obvious. Like, there were so many decisions that he would give that weren't the right decision. And then when the right decision by the main referee was given, he just stood there shaking his head on, like, worldwide television. Like, and it was afterwards as well. He got his medal, and then apparently he was just having an absolute go at the head of the RFL, or the head of the International Rugby and the wheelchair game, like on the court in front of people, just absolutely slacking them off and shouting at them in public. Like, it's not something meant for the world stage, or any stage for that matter. And I mean, I know we say we shouldn't abuse referees, and people like that shouldn't be abused, but this bloke deserves everything he gets after this performance, doesn't he? He deserves all the criticisms.
It's not good, is it? Like, we're trying to change the attitude towards referees and trying to explain that they're not, they're not biased, and then he's there just flying in the face of all that on the biggest occasion
On the biggest
the wheelchair
Yeah.
probably ever. What was it? The biggest crowd that was ever had? Like,
yeah, it's
Not cool.
ridiculous. This is what I wanted to mention this actually before we move on, really quickly. Every single one of them World Cup finals this year had a referee that was from one of the playing nations. I tweeted about this and it wasn't met with much love, but someone did reply, and the name escapes me. Rebecca Whitley, or Whiteley, she's a rugby league enthusiast, and she's a Huddersfield referee development officer. So she knows about refereeing. And my tweet was, I said this on the podcast, in international sports you must have impartial referees. The French referee at the wheelchair final is severely unprofessional because his team aren't winning. Aussie refs in tomorrow's final. Australia played both. Poor from the Rugby League World Cup 2021. They need to sort it out. She replied, do you think referees grow on trees? We've got 2 countries with professional full-time match officials. Would you want a bloke reffing the equivalent of NCL doing the World Cup final if it was England versus Australia? We pick the best and keep developing the games. I said, no one is saying they grow on trees, but they need to fix this before 2025. England weren't playing in either final on the day, so an English referee could have managed the game. Just because we don't have enough referees, we have to trust the ones we do have. The women's final was very well refereed by Belinda Sharp and her team, but Klein and co missed a clear 40-20 seen by everyone else, and Crichton should have seen red. Also, the semi-final should have had the referees reversed. It's not difficult to fix, I don't think. The English referee should have done the semi-final between Australia and New Zealand, and Klein should have done the final between England and Samoa, but they didn't. And I think, just quickly, that needs to be fixed, doesn't it? By 2025, we need to be finding more full-time, good quality match officials, don't we?
Yeah, it's difficult. Like she says, they don't grow on trees, but when it's so obvious, you just switch the referees for the occasions, and there you go. There's there's no question of their loyalties. Although saying that, I'm not saying that I think that these referees are biased towards their
No,
country.
not at all.
Yeah, I do think that on the whole, with the referees are good. I think this French guy is a one in a
100%.
thousand bad example that unfortunately means justifies us having this argument. But really, I think we're okay.
Yeah. Toby, anything to add?
Yeah, I think it was maybe slightly different when Henry Perinara was officiating, and
100%.
you had that New Zealand referee who was able to take charge of Australia and England and stuff. And I think that it is a real challenge now that there's that you've almost got to admit that if that an Australia referee's going to have to referee Australia at some point. But at the same time, like there was enough English referees to referee that final. I don't understand why, if you can get away with not appointing Australian referees to Australia game or French referees to a French game, why you wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Interestingly, I'd also argue, I don't know what you'd agree here, but you'd actually probably be better having a woman referee because of that extra level of impartiality that could come along with it.
Yeah, definitely, because they don't always referee. A lot of the women's teams don't necessarily referee a lot of even the NRL games, if that makes sense. Like they follow. I get what you're trying to say, and I think Belinda Sharp has showed that she can. And I can't remember the other name. Was it Casey Badger, the other referee, the other female referee at the World Cup? Them two, when
Yeah.
they refereed their games, were very well controlled. They didn't seem. There wasn't really much losing control of the game. There wasn't necessarily any standout moments that should have been sorted. They did really well in controlling the players on the pitch, and the respect was there. Whereas I sometimes feel there's not necessarily the respect for the male referees in our sport because of the mistakes that they make. And obviously we'll get into that later on when we talk about blunders and moments of the year and everything. But back on that Biff, Radley versus Bentley, Toby.
Mate, I like mine was a bit of a silly suggestion. I don't think you can look past Gay Guy and Burton in that brawl. That was just a flashback from an era that's long gone, and it was just like pure anger and aggression on a massive occasion. And they landed them. They landed them.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's my definite. I would vote for that one.
Yeah, so the Biff Rugby League Biff of the season. Dane Gagai versus Matt Burton, State of Origin. Beautiful, loved it. I can't wait to see more. Let's go with the worst reback. Actually, no, we were talking about blunders, so let's do blunders. The blunder of 2022. Who made the biggest mistake of 2022? And we can't choose Lee because they're coming up later on.
Yeah, they could get me in for a double award.
Yeah,
one
double award. We can't go Lee or Derek Beaumont for this.
I'm happy to go first. I've got two suggestions. One's a nominate, like a honourable mention. One's a serious contender. So my honourable mention is England Rugby League. Firstly, for choosing to go with a blue and white kit, I think that was really confusing. But also for the men's World Cup semi-final, they had it in a bag. They on paper had the better team. They'd beat them already once in the same competition, and so I think that was a blunder. So that was my honourable mention, but my actual suggestion is Ralph Rimjob. I mean Ralph Rimmer, for his stupid comments before a World Cup that just sort of stole the media, and I think he was extremely lucky that the World Cup just got started and got on with it before we had time to dwell on this, because I think what he said was totally unacceptable and embarrassing for the sport at a very crucial time in our media engagement building up to a World Cup.
I'm not allowed to comment on the situation yet, so I will let Toby go next.
Yeah, so my blunder is it's pretty like straightforward and obvious, I think, but I think that despite the fact that we know that Samoa were the better team, England did do a fantastic job of staying in that game and getting it level and getting it to Golden Point. Just make an absolute mess of Golden Point. it was such a tactically inept golden point, and I think that if they did, focus on just getting the ball deep into Samoan half, winning a turnover, hopefully, it could have been a very different story. So to not even give themselves a chance of having a field goal after Samoa missed their first attempt as well, I think that for me is blunder of the year because it did deny England a World Cup final.
Oh, okay. I mean, I was going to go with something from the World Cup final, and that was Jack Smith missing the 40-20 in the opening stages of the game. That if it's given, and Samoa get on the board first, that game totally changes on its head, and I think it's not as one-sided or as not as. Oh, I think it's more entertaining than what it was as well. I don't know because that's massive. Like, and the thing is, that's not just Jack Smith either. That's all of the officials. Everyone in the crowd and on the TV saw that happen, except from the Lino and Ashley Clyde. The Jack Smith and Ashley Clyde were the only two people in that stadium and on the planet that watched that game that didn't see that 40-20.
Yeah, I mean,
huge.
you're right, and it was quite a key point in the game as well because I think Samoa were really, really high intensity and sort of had the Aussies a bit rattled. And I think that, like you're right, that they probably would have scored off that. The way the game was going, the momentum is that would have been a real victory and set them off on a good start, which is kind of what they got against England and was why they managed to, drag that game out. So I think you're right. But I still think the World Cup semi, despite the fact that you could argue we're underdogs, that game, it wasn't really won off a moment of someone's individual brilliance. It was more England let themselves down and invited Samoa to beat them, and so therefore I think it's a massive blunder. And what happened in the last World Cup semi, we lost at the end again. Like, it just seems to be in our DNA, doesn't it? But yeah, big blunder. The host nation. Imagine how different the World Cup final would have been with an English team there. Just the crowd would have been insane. But yeah, big blunder.
Yeah, it wasn't great, and I think for that reason I'm going to have to back you both and go. The England semi-final loss, to Samoa was the blunder of 2022. We've only got two more awards left, and we'll do the next one. This one's really self-explanatory, and Toby really wanted to. I think it was Toby that brought up this one. The worst rebrand of 2022. I'm going to nominate some teams, and the nominations are Coventry Bears to Midlands Hurricanes, Lee Centurions to Lee Leopards, and I feel like there was one more that we've missed here. Oh yeah, the York City Knights to the York RLFC Knights and Valkyries. Three nominations. Only one winner though, isn't there, Toby? Take it away.
Yeah, I mean, at least Coventry Bears and the York City Knights did not have to get South African wildlife experts to explain their rebrand to their fans and to people questioning the fact that they'd used stock images of the wrong animal. So I think that for that fact alone, Lee Leopards, I didn't know that there was two other nominations available. Only one. So you've done a really good job to think of the other two, Brad. But yeah, absolutely. The Lee Leopards is the worst rebrand of 2022.
Should we say it now? I think the Lee Leopards is the worst rebrand of the last 2022 years.
Yeah. When you said there was more than one nomination, I thought you meant the first rebrand and then the second rebrand that they tried to do to fix the first rebrand. Because it's still shocking.
They changed their kit, didn't they? The first kit had a leopard's ass on the. No. Was it was it a jaguar's ass on the back, or was it a leopard's ass? It was awful. It was absolutely awful, and I don't know what. I've met Derek Beaumont and I've spoke to him, and I don't know if either of you were there at that meeting. Did either of you go to the Challenge Cup semi-finals at Bolton that time?
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, Derek Beaumont was in the room next to us. And I spoke to him outside, during one of the games, and he seemed like a really interesting bloke, and seemed he was up for a chat about a lot of different things, and his whole family was there, and I think he's a good thing for the sport because he brings people in, and he brings in eyes, even if it's for the wrong reason. It brings in eyes, right? But this is the worst decision he has ever made in his life. It's awful. It's so bad. So the winner, or should I say loser, of the worst rebrand of 2022 for the Biff Rugby podcast is the Lee Centurions to the Lee Leopards. We're not sorry. It's fucking awful. Moment of the year. This is the one. This is the final award. This is the last award of the evening. Singular moment of the year. I've got 2 singular moments to go for. I'll do one, and then one of us, then someone else can do one, and then the next person, and so on, just in case we've all got more than one. We've mentioned this bloke already. We've mentioned this game already. I think it's one of the best, in terms of drama, one of the best games of rugby league we've seen in a long time. Not necessarily technically, but Stephen Crichton's drop goal in the World Cup semi-final was one of the moments of the year.
Yeah, it was incredible, wasn't it? And he's like kind of one of the moments that's made him deserve that Player of the Year award as well. Everything riding on it. The whole history of a nation getting to their first ever World Cup final on a massive stage like the Emirates. I can totally agree that deserves to be in the conversation. I've gone with another World Cup moment, and it's one I saw with my bare naked eyes and pray I will never forget, and that's Josh Addo-Carr's amazing try.
Phenomenal.
And that try alone for me made the whole World Cup experience worth it. It was amazing. I've never seen anything like it, and it was just so cool. And it was right in the corner I was sat in. Like, I've got goosebumps thinking about it. I'm so glad I can say I was there. And also, that game in a whole as a whole was just fantastic. Seeing those 2 rugby league giants just like smash each other to bits and like fully take each other to the limits, and see a moment like that, just crazy, just fantastic. I'll never forget it.
Toby, do you have a 1 or 2, or how many nominations do you have for this?
I've got 1. Trying to keep it slightly streamlined. I've gone for sort of, I guess, an underdog story that's maybe been forgotten in the brilliance of Samoa, and that was Queensland winning the State of Origin series this year. And to confirm that they'd won the series, in the 78th minute of the 3rd game, Ben Hunt chases down a kick, collects the ball in the air, basically. The ball comes off the boot and he basically just grabs it out the air, and then runs about 50 metres to score a try that confirms Queensland against many odds. No one thought it was possible. In Billy Slater's first year of coaching, are the State of Origin champions once again.
That's massive. That is an absolutely huge moment as well, and it's one that I'd forgotten about, mainly because of I've now got, for some reason, I've now thought of another World Cup moment, because like you said, Toby, Robin, you've seen Josh Addo-Carr's try against New Zealand in person. I saw Jamaica score their first ever World Cup try against New Zealand in Hull. That was a World Cup moment as well. Like, it's not, for me, it's not one that's going to win, but it was just that's an honourable mention. My second nomination though is the Sippy Tau versus the Siva Tau, Tonga versus Samoa. What Rugby League World Cup quarter final? Unreal, like goosebumps. I wasn't there, but you got goosebumps through the television. Absolutely phenomenal moment that was.
That was really cool. I think that they're such like assets to those countries and our game, and yeah, the way that they coordinated it, it was just pure passion.
I'm waiting for a comment.
I was going to say, you're telling me that 26 men playing Just Dance on grass is a moment of the year? No, I'm joking. Yeah, no, do you know what? The moment you said that, I was kicking myself for not thinking of it. I think the fact that I've called it a dance-off as a joke so many times has really got to my head. But you are, I think you're correct in saying that that is probably the most electrifying war dance since New Zealand and Wales faced off in rugby union about 15 years ago.
Yeah, unreal. It was phenomenal. Do you know? And you know what? The Samoan war dance in the Rugby League World Cup final was amazing as well. To see those players head to head and the Aussies walking towards it and the Aussie women walking towards the Kiwi one as well in the women's game.
Yeah,
It was
and
phenomenal.
the Samoan one, there was like 67,000 people.
Yeah.
Like screaming for the Samoans. Like there was a moment when I've forgotten which player it was, the big forward. You know where they all
was it
sit down.
Papali'i that does the chant?
It could have been, yeah. And he stands up and he like says his first sort of like cry.
He just shouts
and,
Samoa, doesn't he?
Yeah, and then the whole crowd just went mental, and you could see him. Like it took him a moment because I don't think he was expecting to get that kind of response. It was like when that wall of sound hit him, just like it lit him up, and he used that to like amplify the passion again. Like that was really cool.
Yeah, that was a moment. There's so many moments.
I also really like Toby's going back to the origin. Like I was jumping up and down watching that moment, and like you say, the context of that origin series and Ben Hunt coming up with that amazing play, and he provided the kick for Josh Addocar's try. So that's two moments that player's had his hands all over. Great, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is. We've got to pick 3 of these and rank them 3, 2, and 1.
It's so difficult. And like another one that I want to say, just as a quick honourable mention, was the women's England first game in Leeds, in Headingley, against 100%. Brazil. Yeah, there was only 7,000 people there, but there was 80% school kids, and they were going absolutely wild for that. And I just think what a fantastic thing for the game, because I just think of all those like little girls in the crowd that would have been looking at those players that have worked so hard and deserve the recognition, and we're going and see them as role models and inspired by them. And it was just like such a amazing moment, and like great for the whole World Cup and Women's Rugby League. Like that was a really nice moment. I really enjoyed that, and was glad that I pulled the sickie and went to that one.
Brilliant, I love it. Pull the sickie. You know what? I'm going to take the Crichton drop goal out, and we're going to have 3. And it's one from each of us here now. So we have to be honest with each other. So that makes it a bit fairer. We have the Josh Addocar try against New Zealand. The Queensland State of Origin Ben Hunt try to seal the victory. And then we have the Sipi Tau versus the Siva Tau in a Rugby League World Cup quarter final. For me, personally, I am more than happy to put... the Siva Tau or the Sipa Tau is not the number 1 moment here for me. That's what I'm going to say. Whether it comes 3rd or 2nd, I don't want to make that decision. But it's not number 1.
I think... I'll go out and say that I think it's 3rd. It's an amazing moment, and it's great, but it is like pre-rehearsed, whereas the other 2 are like moments of like just the right combination of chance and skill and effort.
Yeah.
And you can't like you can't manufacture them. They just happen. They are just pure in the moment.
Yeah.
Moments.
And I'm actually I think here the Josh Addocar try for me goes 2nd, and the fact you 2 have both said, this is a moment, and as a Queensland supporter, I've forgotten about it until now, and I've gone, yeah, actually, I went ballistic when that happened. I was going absolutely mental at the telly. Like, I was very unwell, but I was still going mental at the telly when this happened. So, for me, the moment of the Biff Rugby League World Cup, the Biff Rugby League podcast moment of the year is Ben Hunt's State of Origin try.
Yeah, I'm happy with that decision.
Perfect. You won something, Tobe. So in third place for the moment of the
I
year.
get to name my baby again now.
Yes, yeah, that was your. Yes, your prize for naming the moment of the year is you now get to name your baby, but it has
No,
to.
you got to name him Ben Hunt.
Yeah, you got it, Ben Hunt. In third place, the Sippy Tau versus the Siva Tau at the Rugby League World Cup quarterfinals. In second place, Josh Adokar's wonder try against New Zealand in the World Cup semi-final. But in first place, the Biff Rugby League moment of the year of 2022, Ben Hunt interception try to seal the State of Origin win for Queensland. That is the moment of the year, and that's a wrap on the 2022.
Oh, hang on.
Hold on.
I want to get it on record. Another award that I'd like to present is to you, Brad, because you've organised this whole thing this year, and it's been so much fun, and you've put in loads of effort. And me and Toby really appreciate that you pull all the strings and do everything behind the scene. So our host of the year is Brad Journo, the legend that he's been out in public. He's secured interviews for us. He's spoke to the top of our game. He's spoke to coaches. It's been awesome. I've had loads of fun. So thank you, mate.
You're welcome. Thank you. Didn't. I'm going to change that award, and I'm going to go co-hosts of the year to Robin Page and Toby Jones, because we are all equals in this. We are all equals.
Very modest.
Very. I do you know what? I've just really enjoyed this year, and I can't wait to be back. I'm not going to say if there's going to be Christmas specials or Christmas videos or anything, because quite frankly, none of us know. None of us really. We haven't had the conversation. We're going to go down, like, after recording now. We're going to have a nice admin chat for a bit, I believe. Hopefully, Robin can stick around for a little bit.
Yep.
So we're going to have a nice chat about admin, and for any news that comes up, we will let you know between now and Christmas, and then we're going to take a nice Christmas break before we come back for the beginning of the season, where we start with the Challenge Cup on the 11th of February. Thank you very much, everyone who's listened. Thank you, everyone who's subscribed, liked, shared, commented, replied on Twitter, even if we've disagreed with you. You've all helped us grow this year, and we hope that you can help us grow next year. This has been episode 27 of the Biff Rugby League podcast, season 1, 2022. Thank you, Toby. Thank you, Robin. We'll see you in 2023 with more swinging arms and more shoulder charges, and hopefully a few less rebrands. We'll see you all in about 8 weeks. Thank you, everyone, and good night. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. It's November, and I've said it. I don't care. Bye. See you later.